In our first module, we'll look at what we designed to hold learning. Our core focus will be reframing curriculum as structure, not just content volume. We'll be looking at curriculum, pedagogy, instruction, and architecture versus activity. Other objectives will include distinguishing curriculum from instruction, identifying where design, not effort, is creating strain, and reframing curriculum as a holding structure. At the end of this module, you'll participate in a design mapping exercise, a curriculum overload audit, and a reflection to see what exactly is your current curriculum holding. Curriculum that holds is an intentionally designed system of wholeness and wellness. This system is based on four major components. At the center of the system is curriculum, pedagogy, and wellness, and surrounding that is culture. We're going to spend some time breaking down all of these units so that you are clear on how to build a system that is sustaining and supportive. We're now going to put a visual to those terms we just discussed. So your curriculum is your calabash. It is the architecture of learning. It includes your purpose, sequence, outcomes, content, and values that shape the entire learning experience over time. It determines what matters, set the direction and scope, holds identity, culture, and intent, and it exists before the lesson begins, and this becomes your curriculum theory. The pedagogy is the utensil you use to move around all of those things in your curriculum. It determines how learning is facilitated and experienced. Pedagogy is the approach and philosophy behind teaching. It reflects beliefs about learners, power and engagement, and meaning making. It determines how the learning unfolds, shape relationships and engagement, and it is informed by culture and context. The instruction is the table on which all of this sits. It determines what happens in the room, on the screen, in the moment. Instruction is day to day enactment of teaching. It includes your strategies, activities, explanations, assessments delivered in the learning. It determines what happens today, your lesson, your tasks, your assessments, and it also includes the wellness. All of these areas are reciprocally important. However, the most important start you have is in the curriculum. If the calabash bowl is weak, even good pedagogy and instruction can feel exhausting. Weak curriculum can lead to overplanning, misaligned pedagogy, disengagement, overloaded instruction, which all lead to exhaustion. Burnout often shows up in instruction, but it usually begins in the curriculum. Curriculum sets the direction, pedagogy shapes the journey, and instruction is a step you take today. Even though we will talk about this in a later module, I want to take a few moments to address culture. The cost of culture free design can lead to diminished motivation. If learners don't see themselves or their communities in the curriculum, motivation drops. Learning becomes for someone else, not buying for them. This can result in lower participation, absenteeism, and resistance to effort. Hidden bias and misalignment often exist in neutral curriculum because it tends to default to the dominant perspective, often Western, white, or mainstream. This can lead to curriculum supremacy, which reinforces stereotypes, misrepresents histories, silences diverse groups. Students with non dominant cultural background may feel alienated, and this can lead to inequitable outcomes. By ignoring culture, we assume the same supports work for everyone. Equity is not sameness, it is responsive support. When we don't offer that, the achievement gap widens, and learners who need connection fall further behind. This causes emotional labor for learners because now learners must fill in the cultural gaps or translate the content into some type of meaning. This leads to extra work, unrecognized labor, and can be very exhausting and emotionally burdensome. And this disproportionately falls on minoritized learners. If there is good pedagogy, this can also lead to teacher burnout and overwork because neutral design forces teachers to compensate for lack of relevance. It retrofits cultural connections and design supplemental materials, which leads to more planning and less connection. Neutral, culture free design can lead to cultural disconnect, which can lead to cognitive loss, motivation drop, and equity gaps. In order to prepare for our official module on culture, I want you to think about these three things. Where do you see culture free design showing up in your current curriculum? How does this affect learner engagement and meaning making? And finally, what cultural strengths are you currently not leveraging? Neutral design does not mean fair design. It is design that centers the dominant experience by default and marginalizes others. Well, that is it for the first module. And so now it's time to complete your post lesson activities. The first assignment will be your design mapping exercise. It will have you compare curriculum, pedagogy, and instruction in your current educational situation. Number two will be the curriculum overload audit. You're going to examine the things that fit in your calabash and how they affect your teaching. And the last one is to explore, what is curriculum actually holding? You're going to think about coverage to capacity. What do you teach? And what system is it carrying? And I will see you in Module 2.